All right, what's up, YouTube? Today, I'm here with the long-awaited, long-requested debloating guide. This is a full, in-depth overview of everything I have done to undergo this transformation right here. And believe it or not, that first photo on the left was taken on November 30th, I believe, 2025. This photo was taken yesterday, so January 15th, 2026. So this is about 6 or 7 week transformation of debloating. And I'm going to go through some very simple principles. I'm going to be breaking it down into 3 phases. Things you need to decrease, things you need to balance, and things you likely need to increase if you want to see tangible results in your debloating progress and make a transformation just like this one. And obviously, the benefits of debloating are immense. First of all, it's less stressful on your cardiovascular system because water retention puts pressure on your arteries, increases your blood pressure, makes your heart work harder than it has to. You're more confident, and usually the things that you do to debloat are also good for your health, like balancing your hormones, electrolytes, stress levels, etc. So let's get right into how I made this. But first, we gotta look at the harmful effects of being bloated, being a chopped little egg like I was not too long ago. So we have here root causes. So number 1, body fat. And then we've got our hormonal causes like estrogen, prolactin, and stress is mostly a hormonal thing like cortisol. And then we have gut dysregulation, bad posture, and a sedentary life. So all these things are going to make you a chopped little egg. And what does being a chopped little egg grow into? It grows into low self-esteem, no bitches, less trusted, less productive, less successful, less opportunities, suicidal ideation. And unfortunately, a lot of people choose to end their lives largely due in part to the fact that they have low self-esteem because of their appearance. And obviously we don't want that. I've been there. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you've fallen somewhere on the spectrum of having terrible mental health due to being bloated and puffy in the face. But fear not, by the end of this video, all your problems will be solved, or at least you'll be on the way to making a transformation just like this one. So, but yeah, then less opportunity leads to less money, which means no family, and it means you die alone. We don't want that. So that means we need to transform from a chopped little egg into a nice little looks match debloated person like myself and like you're about to be when you finish watching this video. First, we gotta decrease a lot of things. The first of which being our estrogen. So most men nowadays have too much estrogen, especially in relation to their testosterone in their body. And what estrogen does in terms of causing bloating is it activates a system known as the RAS system, which stands for renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. So that has to do with blood pressure and sodium retention in the kidneys, right? So when that system is activated, your kidneys hold on to more sodium and therefore more water, and that effect is widespread throughout the body. So you'll notice, in your abs, your love handles, your face, it puffs up. This can be especially true like right after a cheat meal. It's not that you got fat from the cheat meal, it's that you're holding on to water because your kidneys are like, what the fuck is with all this sodium and fat? So how do we avoid conversion of estrogen into estrogen? Because estrogen makes this system work in twofold. The more estrogen you have in your body, the more that signaling is active in your kidneys to hang on to all this sodium and water, like I just said. So obviously the first thing we're gonna wanna do is lower our body fat percentage. And that also helps with getting a leaner face, obviously, because there's less fat. But lower body fat means less aromatase. Aromatase is the enzyme that converts testosterone into estrogen. So naturally, less body fat, less aromatase means less estrogen. And then of course we want to avoid xenoestrogen. So what the xeno means is just new estrogen, stuff that we've invented that is man-made that has estrogenic effects in the body. You're probably hearing all sorts of stuff about, plastics and air fresheners and household cleaning products and et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on and on, even your underwear. Yeah, limiting these xenoestrogens as much as you can. So, eating out of glass, drinking out of metal instead of plastic, stuff like that. Cut air fresheners, cut back on the highly synthetic chemicals. If you smell something and it makes your body go, oh, that's kind of very unnatural, it's probably not good for you. That's a general rule of thumb. But obviously within reason, we have to be sanitary, we have to be hygienic, but just try to put a limit on it. Don't load up on these chemicals. And then we want to avoid alcohol. Alcohol increases estrogen conversion by a huge amount, and especially beers, because beers are made with hops, which is very, very estrogenic. We want to avoid that. And then supplements we can use to sort of help estrogen conversion. So caffeine, number 1, caffeine's an aromatase inhibitor at a mild level. It also increases testosterone, especially in athletes. Tonkat Elite also increases testosterone and free testosterone. It's also a selective estrogen receptor modulator, so that means the estrogen in your body doesn't really go down a whole lot, but it does have less harmful effects on the body, especially in the kidneys as well. And then you can take NAC or N-acetylcysteine. This is an antioxidant which boosts glutathione levels in the body, which also helps ammonia clearance from the liver, which means your liver gets to work on 500 other things, such as clearing estrogen from the body. When the liver's backed up, which is another reason why you shouldn't drink alcohol if you care about your estrogen levels. When the liver's backed up, it can't clear out estrogen. Estrogen builds up and starts doing harmful shit, like making your kidneys hold on to more sodium and water, which we don't want. So bottom line is less estrogen equals less bloat. And moving on, prolactin. So prolactin does the exact same thing in the kidneys, but there's a little bit of a different method to lowering prolactin. So we want, number one is going to be semen retention. Now, I know that that's woo movement. Some people might really believe in it. Some people are like, oh, there's no science behind it. But actually there is. When you ejaculate, your prolactin levels spike because it says, okay, prolactin is the hormone to make you go to sleep and to give you that refractory period where you can't come anymore. But the problem is when you repeatedly ejaculate over and over again, the levels build up and they stay elevated, right? So the longer you go without it, the more prolactin levels normalize. It usually takes a few weeks for them to come back to what they should be after the last time you've busted a nut. And then next up we have quitting cannabis. So cannabis and also opioids, but cannabis is more relevant because more people use marijuana regularly. We're going to want to cut back on it. I've since quit cannabis, but there have been a couple times where I have smoked it and consumed it otherwise again. And I noticed the very next day, I'm extremely watery. And I'm extremely lazy and foggy and tired. And I can only assume that this is most likely due to prolactin, right? So cannabis has been shown to increase prolactin by a fuck ton in men. So we want to avoid that as much as possible if we're trying to debloat. And then we have healthy dopamine. So that means like not waking up and scrolling on your phone, yada, yada. You understand the dopamine trap. If you don't, check out my channel. I have another video on how to manipulate your dopamine zone for a couple months ago. But yeah, dopamine and prolactin have an inverse relationship. So that means when your dopamine is firing high, your prolactin is low, and vice versa. When your prolactin is up, your dopamine's down. That's why as soon as you finish busting a nut, you don't want to do it again because it's like there's no reward pathway to do so. That's why you're lazy after you fucking bust a nut, right? So we want to keep our dopamine healthy. And once again, if you don't really understand how that whole system works, go check out my video. I think it's titled How to Fix Your Life in 2 Weeks. And you can see on the screen, it says dopamine zone manipulation. It's going to give you an in-depth rundown on how to fix that. And then we have healthy stress habits. So when we're stressed out, when we're feeling that overwhelmed feeling, our prolactin goes up. So prolactin is actually the pregnant woman hormone. It's largely the reason why pregnant women are irritable and feel like shit all the time and are lazy and get sick in the morning. It's because of prolactin. So when we're overwhelmed and we're bitching and everything and we have a victim mindset and we're acting like a pregnant woman, it's going to drive our prolactin levels up and we don't want that, right? So now let's get into supplements we can take to lower our prolactin levels. One which might surprise some of you is nicotine. Nicotine helps the dopamine reward system, acetylcholine signaling, etc., etc. I'm not too sure about long term, but I noticed that a few months into using Zins regularly, which I still do, my prolactin levels on my blood work were the lowest they'd ever been by far. Like I was getting reads around like 16 to 25 for my prolactin, which is not good. It's not where it should be. And then all of a sudden, I went in after using Zins for a while to get my hormone panel done. My prolactin was down at 7, which is phenomenal. Beautiful. And then the other two are P5P and vitamin E. Those seem to work for a lot of people. There's a lot of solid research for them lowering prolactin levels, but unfortunately, it didn't work for me in my experience. But maybe my body's just unique. I don't know. But anyway, give those 3 a shot if you want to use supplements to lower your prolactin levels. Next up is calories. It's pretty simple. Don't be fucking fat. If you're in a calorie surplus, you're going to be fatter and fatter by the week. If you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to be leaner and leaner by the week. The leaner you are, the less puffy your face is. Enough said. Stress, or more specifically cortisol. So you'll notice a lot of what relates to bloating is hormonal. And because all 3 of these hormones, your kidneys hate because it makes them hold on to sodium and water and makes you look puffy. So if you're stressed out, your cortisol's up and your kidneys are holding on to shit and making you look ugly. So there you go. Your internal state is reflected by your external appearance. But yeah, if we want to avoid a cortisol buildup, want to make sure on our regular sleep schedule, our circadian rhythms in check. We're going to bed, waking up at the same time every morning, preferably around when the sun goes. But I know right now in the winter, that's kind of not plausible because the sun's only up for like 6 to 8 hours, depending where you are in the world. But we want to make sure that we're getting sunlight into our eyes early in the morning. That signals to our body like, okay, let's get rid of the melatonin, let's clear the adenosine, and let's wake up for the day. And then in turn, when the sun goes down, your body says, okay, let's start making melatonin, let's wind down, it's time to go to bed. When this system works in a rhythmic fashion, our cortisol is lower, it spikes when it needs to in the morning to get you up, and then it levels out throughout the day so you can go to bed. And then we have healthy stress habits. So things like implementing things like meditation, journaling, and mindfulness is going to keep your stress in check. When we're mindful, we think more logically. When we think more logically, we don't stress about things. When we don't stress about things, we have lower cortisol. When we have lower cortisol, we are less ugly. So definitely, there's more benefits than just the mental health piece. It literally makes you more attractive to manage your stress. And then we have regular training. Training regularly, obviously, you feel good after you hit the weights. You feel good after you do cardio. It's lowering your cortisol, it's keeping your stress down, helping your body do the right processes, but we don't want to overtrain because that's destroying our body to a point where it can't recover, and then the cortisol is going to stay high, which is going to try to signal to you not to go train again. But some of you persistent fucks like myself will continue to push through that and train and not listen to your body, and that's just a losing game, and you're going to push your cortisol up to the point where you literally can't get out of bed. So you don't want to do that. But if we want to look into supplements to lower our cortisol levels, we can use things like L-theanine, which is an amino acid that directly lowers cortisol. We can use magnesium glycinate before bed. That one is huge. That is probably the most life-changing supplement I've ever taken. Increases REM sleep, so you get deeper, more restorative sleep, relaxes your muscles, and like I said, directly lowers cortisol levels. Beautiful supplement. And then ashwagandha as well lowers cortisol. But we want to be careful with that because it also plays with the serotonin systems in the brain. And if we don't cycle it like 3 months on, 1 month off, you can run into some pretty weird mood and libido issues, which we don't want. So yeah, just make sure to be careful with that one. And then we have goy slop or processed foods. But as we call it in 2026, it's goy slop. So this destroys your gut. A lot of like fast food, just, not optimal meals will have lots of sodium and fat all at once. So the fat's going to slow down your digestion, which means you're going to get bloated. And the sodium bombs are going to obviously give your kidneys a hard time excreting it. So again, when you're holding on to sodium, you're holding on to water, you're holding on to that puffy look. And it's also inflammatory. If you have inflammation, that's also going to contribute to that puffy, soft, watery look. So things to avoid are anything that's cooked in seed oils. I don't care. There's a whole debate online. Some people are like, oh, it's not bad for you. It doesn't hurt your test. Doesn't kill your gains. And other people are like, oh, avoid it like the plague. It's somewhere in between. So seed oils are high in omega-6 fatty acids, polyunsaturated fatty acids. And what these do is they increase inflammation like a motherfucker in the body, especially if they're not balanced out by omega-3s. And more often than not, you're getting a shitload of omega-6s when you consume seed oils, so you do not want to do that. Terrible for your gut, terrible for inflammation, terrible for your testosterone levels, and makes you ugly. And then we're also going to avoid heavily processed carbs, so things like cake, cookies, donuts, etc., etc. Like, pay attention when you eat a lot of those, you're going to look puffy pretty soon afterwards. Every now and then I'll have a muffin before a workout and I'll notice like, oh shit, like I kind of can't see my lower abs even though I know I'm lean, but it's just not there because there's a layer of water. I hate this. So yeah, you want to avoid those if debloating is your main priority. And then of course, like I said before, high fat meals are going to slow down your digestion and keep you bloated for longer. All right, so next up, we're going to look at things that we want to regulate. So not so much increase or decrease, but just keep in balance. Because if you swing too far either way, it's going to fuck you up. So first up, we have carbs. And we want to keep these on a daily basis if we're training regularly at about 1.4 to 1.8 grams per pound of body weight. So for a 180-pound person like myself, that's about 260 to 320 grams of carbs per day. I try to fall in that range if I can. And yeah, obviously, if we're trying to build a lot of muscle, we want to go a little bit higher, but this is specifically for the purpose of being debloated. And usually if you're trying to debloat, you're going to be in a calorie deficit. So this is a good guideline for carbohydrates. We want to make sure we're getting it from the proper sources, not highly processed inflammatory things. So There's basically 4 types of source you get it from: fruit or fruit juices that are not from concentrate and have no added sugar, honey, rice, and rice variants. So no Rice Krispie treats, but rice cakes, cream of rice. Those are all acceptable carb sources that are not going to bloat you, easy to digest, etc., etc. And then sourdough bread. Sourdough has gut positive effects due to the way it's fermented and is generally a pretty low bloat food in moderation. And then with the timing, we want to get the timing right. If you bomb a ton of carbs and then sit on your ass, it's more likely to spill over and be stored as subcutaneous water retention, which means below the skin, which means you get that puffy look, your definition is softened, and you are not debloating, right? So we want to have about 80% of our carbs within the pre and post workout meal. So let's say we're eating 300 grams of carbs in a day. That means we want about 240 grams before and after the workout. So that could look like 120 with each meal. That might sound like a lot, but trust me on this. You want to keep it timed with the workout, because then that guarantees that it's all going towards your pump and then refilling your muscles after they've been depleted. And then also we want to not mix high fat and high carb meals, because again, the fats are going to slow the digestion. If you're slowing the digestion with the carbs, it's going to keep releasing blood sugar into your blood over a longer period of time. And that's going to fuck with your insulin system more and more likely to spill over and do things we don't want. So that leads me to my next point, which is insulin control. So if you're symptomatic, which means like no matter what, even if you eat just a little bit of carbs, you kind of get that weird brain fog, like tired feeling afterwards, means that you probably have some issues with insulin control. The carbs are spilling over, your blood glucose is spiking too hard, it's not really going into your muscles like it should. What we're going to want to do in that case is start implementing fasted cardio on a regular basis, at least like 3 to 4 times a week. Every day if you can though. And then we're gonna use a supplement called berberine, which helps to shuttle carbs properly so that we're not getting those weird blood glucose spikes. And you're gonna wanna take the berberine like with your high carb meals, especially if it's away from training. We wanna use our high glycemic carbs. So those are things that spike quickly and come down a little bit. So like honey and fruit juice especially are going to be more high glycemic carbs. We want those especially pre-workout, right? Because if we are at a random time of day and we pound a bunch of high glycemic carbs to get that big spike and crash, your body's kind of just like, what the fuck? We didn't need that energy. It's more likely to spill over and cause issues, right? And then obviously, again, for insulin control, we want to get lean, because the leaner we are, the more it signals to our body like, hey, we need this for energy, not for storage. But yeah, next up, we've got gut health. Gut health is something we want to keep in balance, and specifically like gut bacteria. So like we said before, avoiding the goy slop processed foods. Next one is going to be consistent meal sizes, right? So if you eat like a little snack at the beginning of the day and then pound food at the end of the day, that's going to cause a weird mismatch in digestion, and it's going to be a lot harder for your body to deal with that, which means more bloating. And then, like I said, that's more bloating. We don't want that. We're trying to debloat, right? So keep the meal sizes consistent throughout the day. So if you're eating like 2,100 calories a day, try to keep everything between like 500 and 800 calories per meal if you can. But yeah, next up, implementing probiotic foods. So things that help with digestion and the bacterial balance in your gut. So things like kombucha, which is like this fizzy drink, it's fermented. And then kimchi, which is like fermented vegetables, very tasty. It goes well with a lot of meals. Those are the two that I eat on the regular that do wonders for me. If you haven't been implementing it before, you may notice right off the bat that you might get a little bit of sort of a gut clean out, but don't worry, you didn't fuck anything up. It'll go away as soon as it's done figuring itself out, and you can continue to eat those foods. Next up, we have digestive enzymes, which are a supplement. You can buy it like at Costco or online or something, but just take one of those pills with each meal. It's going to help your body break down carbs and fats more easily in the digestive system. And I notice a difference when I take those with my meals. I consistently look more dry. And then we want 4 liters of water daily to keep things moving along. And like, this is 4 liters right here. Keep it on me at all times, just because it's more convenient than like if I have a smaller water bottle or just a glass and I have to continue going downstairs to fill it and whatnot. It's like, I'm less likely to get up and do that in the middle of a work block. So you don't have to be extra like me and get a whole gallon, but you know, get a decently sized one. Get at least like 2 liters. It helps with convenience, and you're more likely to follow through and stay hydrated. And then last up, we have sodium. So a lot of people get this wrong. They think that, okay, salt causes bloating, it's the enemy, avoid it at all costs, you're trying to debloat. That's not true. If you have too much salt, you are going to get puffy and bloated and like flushed and dizzy and feeling weird, and your blood pressure is going to go up, right? Like I said, the more sodium the kidneys are holding on to, the more fluid your body's going to retain. But if you don't have enough sodium, you're also going to look flat. You're not going to get pumps, your blood flow is going to be shit. You know, your body needs salt to do all sorts of functions, right? But the problem is when we have too much salt and not enough water or other electrolytes. So we want the sodium balance. So if you're active, a good target is about 6 to 8 grams a day. But I know that's kind of hard to track, but generally you want to salt your foods on the regular, just not like super aggressively. Don't consume things that have tons of added sodium. And you also want to distribute your sodium intake evenly across the day. It's not like you just forget to have it and then all of a sudden, at once, like tons of salt. You want to try to keep it pretty consistent even throughout the day so you're not having swings like this. But yeah, so since 6 to 8 grams of sodium, it's kind of hard to like track that. We're going to use biofeedback. So like I said, if you're feeling flushed and dizzy, that likely means you had too much sodium. I notice like if I salt my food a little too hard, I'll notice like, oh, I feel kind of warm in the face and like my heart feels a little weird. Like, yeah, okay, too much sodium. But if I feel like flat and irritable and maybe a little bit nauseous, that's how I know I probably need a little bit more. And I notice like if I have a little pinch of salt within like 10 minutes, I feel much better, much more relaxed, much more even of a mood. So again, use biofeedback, and you know, there's gonna be some trial and error, but luckily, if you make a mistake, it can correct pretty quickly within a day and you'll learn your body. And I wanna make that very clear. I'm giving a huge information dump right now in this video, but it's not like you're gonna take every single thing I say here, implement it all at once and get it perfectly. It's gonna take time. It took me months to years to learn everything I've put for you in this video. And the habits have built themselves and the understanding has built itself over time, over trial and error. So you're going to have to go through the same thing. But what I'm doing for you today is just having all the information right here. So you can implement one thing at a time or a couple things at a time. And eventually you'll be a master at debloating too. So finally, we're gonna move on to things that we generally want to increase if we want to debloat. And the first up being upright posture. So this somewhat directly will debloat you because if your posture is proper, things are going to drain better through your lymphatic system. But in general, this is going to help your face look less bloated just because of the positioning, right? Like if you see a difference like here, like look at the difference between this and this, right? See, when my neck is elongated, my face looks leaner. That's just how it is, right? So here's some exercises right here on the screen to sort of promote that upright posture. We have light correction exercises. These are things I do every morning. I might go ahead and make a separate video on this as well, but in the meantime, you can just look all these up. These are just gonna sort of loosen things up and get everything moving the way it should. And then the muscles we wanna strengthen to have good upright posture are gonna be our lower traps, which are gonna kind of like pull the shoulder blades back so we're upright. Serratus anterior, it's kind of like the shark gill muscle. Some people think it's the rib cage, but it's not. It's this little muscle that it's responsible for upward rotation of the scapula, right? So like overhead pressing and shit like that. But to strengthen it, you want to do any movement that involves scapular protraction, right? So there's tons of good ones. Might make a video on that as well. Erector spinae, that's the muscles that run along the side of your spine that keep you upright. So things like deadlifts, RDLs, and squats work those pretty hard. I don't ever train them anymore because I have a very solid powerlifting background and I'm trying to just give my joints a rest right now. So yeah, but I have a pretty solid foundation for that. Glutes, when we strengthen our glutes, we have less anterior pelvic tilt, which is where the pelvis is rotated forward and you kind of have that shelf, you know what I'm saying? So most people have that due to excessive sitting, and when we strengthen the glutes, it sort of pulls the pelvis back into proper rotation, which upstream makes everything else sit in the right position. And then of course abs, when your abs are strong, that also helps pull the pelvis and the rib cage where they should and helps you keep that upright posture. And of course, if you want to be attractive, you got to have a good set of abs. Next up, have movement. So there's a few ways that movement helps to debloat you. It drains the lymphatic system, and of course when you move a lot, you sweat more. When you sweat more, you get rid of excess fluid. Endothelial function, so that's like basically like your blood flow and how well like your circulation's going. If you have good circulation, things are gonna flow through your body better, less toxin buildup, less bloating, less inflammation. And of course, calorie burn. The more you move, the more calories you burn. The more calories you burn, the less facial fat you're holding, right? Also, I forgot to add, movement helps with digestion. Having healthy digestion means less bloating. Been over this over and over again. Next up, nasal breathing. This is more purely like cosmetic. It doesn't actually directly debloat you. If I'm breathing through my mouth, my face looks round and it's gonna kind of soften the look up. But when you breathe through your nose like you're supposed to, the face stays tight, the cheek lines come in, the jawline stays up there, and your tongue posture is correct and everything. So nasal breathing if we want to have facial aesthetics on point. Next thing we're probably going to want to increase is magnesium. Most people don't get enough in their diet, so I recommend using magnesium glycinate as a supplement before you go to bed. But you're going to want to start low because some people can have some digestive responses to it. In fact, one of my clients, he can't even take like the lightest dose, like 100 milligrams. He can't even tolerate that without having explosive diarrhea. And it's not like it cleared up, it just continued to happen. So he's got some sort of intolerance to it. So again, you're going to want to start slow. For most people, I recommend starting at 200 milligrams and working your way up to 400 milligrams. This works well for most of my clients. I started at 200 milligrams, noticed a difference. I bumped it to 400, noticed a bigger difference. Most nights I will take 400 milligrams, but some nights if I want really deep sleep, I will take 600 milligrams. And I think that's about the upper limit of what's acceptable supplementation wise. But yeah, magnesium, like I said before, lowers cortisol. It draws water into the intestines, which decreases the gut bloat. So perhaps in my client, his body was super responsive to it. It did this too well and gave him explosive diarrhea. So obviously want to watch out for that. That's why I said start low. But I think in general, 200 milligrams is a pretty good starting dose. But yeah, it also increases REM sleep and relaxes the muscles, both of which are going to indirectly help you debloat. Next up, potassium. So potassium, it increases the rate at which your body excretes sodium and water. That's why if you're on like Look Snacks or TikTok or Instagram, everyone says like, oh, potassium maxing, oh, coconut water. I have one of these a day. Coconut water is king. If you have a liter of coconut water, that's about 2 grams of potassium. Most adult men do not have enough potassium in their diet on a daily basis. Minimum, you want 3 grams. And if you're active, you might want upwards of about 5 grams. It also draws water into the muscles when sodium is present. And that's also why I put sodium in the balance category, not straight up just decrease, because it is important to complete the look. You just got to keep it in balance. You got to keep it in balance and you got to have everything in tandem. Potassium and sodium together at the right amounts are going to draw more water into the muscles and give you great pumps in the gym. But yeah, like I said, the best sources of potassium are coconut water is king, got bananas, avocados, cantaloupe, orange juice, sweet potatoes or potatoes. Lastly, you got to be careful with this one, but we got potassium citrate pills. Every now and then I'll take about 300 milligrams of potassium citrate if I notice I need a little bit of that extra push. It does help very acutely, but again, with the synthetic potassium, we don't want to go too crazy with it. So I'd say no more than 300 to 500 milligrams a day. And then lastly, water. When we drink water, we piss more. We go to the bathroom more. And when you drink more water, your body has more water in it. You can sweat more. It's like if you have a glass of, say, like vinegar, and you want to get rid of the vinegar, but you don't have the ability to turn the glass upright and pour it, but you're able to pour water into the glass. The more water you pour into the glass, the more vinegar it's going to get pushed out, right? So your body works the same way. You need to have enough water to actually have the foundation to like urinate and sweat out toxins and sodium buildup, right? And also when we're well hydrated with water, it signals to your body not to hold on to more water. But when you're not, your body starts to hold on to water more because it says, fuck, we don't know when we're gonna get more water. We need this to survive, right? And then that leads to you being puffy, bloated, and inflamed. So you want to make sure we are drinking enough water on a daily basis. If you're active, and especially if you're taking something like creatine, I would shoot for 4 to 5 liters a day. But yeah, you need water to survive. Basic fucking knowledge. This is square one. If you're not drinking enough water, don't expect any positive health outcomes or to be looking attractive by any means. Yeah, that is everything. And we're gonna go ahead and take a look at some key takeaways right now. Basically, to sum everything up, don't be fat. Balance your hormones, especially through stress management. Balance your electrolytes and hydration. Don't overload or cut back too hard on some of them. Make sure everything's in balance. You're gonna wanna eat a healthy diet so you're not getting inflamed or bloated. You wanna time your carbs around your workout so you're not getting spillover into subcutaneous water retention or having weird glucose control issues. You want to move around more to help yourself drain everything and keep the insulin system healthy. And you want to have good posture so your lymphatic system can drain properly. And your facial aesthetics are on point because everything is aligned, right? So if you just remember this right here, you should be pretty solid and good to go, right? But the main thing, if I had to select the most important aspect of debloating, it's to have a positive attitude. Take it day by day. It's not going to happen overnight, but you can notice a pretty significant difference overnight if you implement some of these things. But if you're starting out at a higher body fat, or maybe your endocrine system has been really dysregulated for a long time, it might take longer to see some extreme results, but it's worth it in the end. Just enjoy the process. Don't be too neurotic about it, and just keep a positive attitude and be grateful that you actually get to do this. You have access to these things and these tools, and that your body is such a beautiful system that you have the ability to modulate for your own personal goals and visions, right? So again, just very simple. Keep these key takeaways, take everything with you. Drop me a comment or shoot me a DM on Instagram if you have any questions. I know I kind of rushed through this and it's a lot of information, but I'd be happy to help explain things more in depth if you were wondering. But yeah, I'm gonna link any of the videos I referenced as well as my Instagram, so you can shoot me a DM in the description. I hope that after this video you definitely learned something new, and that you're well on your way to looking sexier, more fuckable, and having better opportunities in your life. So thank you very much for tuning in. Grab you some coconut water and get to debloating.